Well, after that, you kept getting features, and between 2004 and 2008, you had 300 placements.
Something like that. Yeah, quite a bit. I mean, it was they were coming a mile a minute.
Right. I mean, one of the bigger ones was "Busted Baby" Part 2 with Plies and Neo.
Yep,
that was a big song.
That was a good one. Yeah, I mean, I had a whole run with Plies. You know, Becky, "Busted Baby," "I Am the Club." I had a good relationship with Atlantic Records that he was signed to. But yeah, "Busted Baby" was the biggest pop one. But some of those other ones, like, you know, I spent a lot of time in Miami, and people are like, "Whoa, you did that like Plies stuff?" I'm like, "Yeah, it didn't really play out here in LA, so I didn't really even feel like the impact of those things." But yeah, I mean, I did a lot of stuff, you know, with that crew.
Well, around this time, Leona Lewis, "Better in Time," comes out.
Yeah.
Can you play that?
Yeah, I can play that. Yeah.
I remember Rodney Jerkins in our interview, he said that since the beginning, every time that he sells a beat, he'll only sell it if he's either the writer or the co-writer.
Mm-hmm.
Do you ever write the lyrics as well, or just the music?
I never write the lyrics.
Okay, so you're not a lyric guy.
I'm not a lyric guy, unfortunately. You know, I'm one of those guys, I'm all music, but pretty much like I'll be in the room with an artist or a songwriter, and they'll come up with lyrics, and I might say, that could be edgier, that could be cooler, that could be more repetitive, that's not a hook, that's more of a pre-hook, but that's more producing, as opposed to the guy who's actually like, you know, hey, here's the title of the song, here's that. My way of doing that, sometimes I might flip a sample where the sample might have a little word in it where you'll go with that. But no, unlike, you know, maybe he's we call it top liners. Maybe he does that. And obviously we know producers like Pharrell do that. But I'm definitely one of those guys who I have to be in the room with either an artist or a songwriter or both who are bringing the concept, the lyric to the table. I don't do that.
Okay, so "Better in Time." Who wrote the lyrics to that?
A girl named Andrea Martin, who sadly has passed away.
Oh.
But yeah, she, you know, and that was one of those ones that, you know, for me, that I was just at the piano at my condo. I played this riff, you know, probably trying to do some Beatles type. I don't know what I was doing, but I made the track. The track was done. And then Andrea Martin, she was a writer from New York. We had her at our studio, and she pretty much that's one of those, you know, a lot of times you look at songs now, there's like 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 writers. She wrote that. It was like her and the beat. She wrote that. I like edgier music, so I was like, "Better in Time." It sounds a little schmaltzy. It sounds a little adult contemporary. I was like, I like the piano riff. But yeah, at that time it was X Factor, was Simon Cowell and L.A. Reid at the same time. And by the way, they got into it. I was a little circus seal who had to like kept change. Hey, the British people want it this way. They want the snare not as hard hitting. And L.A. Reid is like, no, but in America we want it like this. So I had to go back and forth between them having an ego battle, like changing the song up. But yeah, that was Leona's second single, follow-up single, and that song was a really actually important song in retrospect to my catalog, because that was probably one of the first hits I had that was purely like a very piano-driven, non-sample kind of thing. I think at the time, you know, people probably thought, you know, they knew, oh, he flips samples, he does urban stuff. They didn't know that, like, no, he could do like a piano ballad. So I think that song in a way opened up, you know, because people always put you in a box. And I was like, no, I play piano. I'm not saying I'm shredding on that. It's a simple progression that anyone can learn. But it was definitely like my first piano ballad, let's call it, that was a hit.
Well, then that next year, Iyaz, Replay, number 2. Almost number 1.
Almost number one. It was a number 1 on radio. Because, you know, there's different like rankings, and it was, you know, number 1 in radio, but it hit number 2 on the Hot 100. I was kind of upset about that at the time, but hey, now, you know, it was an amazing experience. And that song was meant for Sean Kingston. We did that song and What You Say for Sean Kingston's second album. But him, Sean, even and the record company were like, I don't know. So then my brother Tommy found Iyaz and Jason Derulo again on MySpace, and we brought Replay to Iyaz. Back then, it's like the hook was intact, and the hook was actually written by an amazing songwriter, Tehran, who just won. He from Rock City. He just won the Grammy for Songwriter of the Year, and his brother Timothy. But yeah, we when I heard that hook Replay, because Sean was the one who sang it to me in the room a cappella. He took it from Tehran, but he played it for me. I was like, whoa, what's that? And I just immediately started playing chords to it. And I was like, I knew that hook was like, whoa, and we ended up breaking another artist off that song.
Iyaz was signed to Beluga Heights?
Iyaz was signed to Beluga Heights. At that time, it was we had moved our venture from Sony Epic to Warner Brothers. And so and Warner Brothers was divided. There was like kind of two sub labels within there. And Jason Derulo was on one and Iyaz was on the other. And it was kind of simultaneous. And so Replay, pretty much broke Iyaz to the world.
Right. And that year you got BMI Producer of the Year.
Yeah, I think two maybe 3 years in a row. But yeah, that was a big year. Yeah.
How did it feel? I mean, a kid growing up in the Bay Area to suddenly multiple #1 songs, Producer of the Year, millions of dollars are coming in. These are artists you're breaking on your own label. This is not like giving Jay-Z a hit song or giving 50 Cent a hit song. It's a whole lot easier to do that.
Yeah.
Than to actually take an unknown guy that no one's ever heard of and give him a #1 or a #2 song.
Yeah. Yeah. It was an incredible feeling. I wish that I would have appreciated it even more in its time. I always kind of had a hunger to accomplish more. I remember thinking, but we're not selling albums like Amy Winehouse and Adele. I was always kind of looking over my shoulder, like what's more? What's more than that? But I mean, now with the maturity of like seeing careers go up and down and up and down, now seeing the heights that was, it really was an incredible feeling. And like you said, I sort of felt like, in a weird way, I kind of felt like we were signing what I would call to be underdogs. They weren't, even till this day, right? There's artists that come out that have bidding wars. Every label wants them. They're so hot. Some of them break. Some of them actually don't. Some of them get enormous deals and they don't. But I feel like I started to feel like, I think my purpose is, because I see myself as an underdog, I think it's my job to find artists who may not, they have their own talent. They're incredible in their own way, but they need that co-pilot of a producer to kind of help shape their sound, give them, better songs, flip samples in some cases, that kind of stuff. And really, kind of be, a co-pilot. And I felt like that was kind of like what we did with Sean and Iyaz and Jason Derulo. So it really was an incredible feeling. And like you said, breaking our own artists on our own label with songs, it was a kind of a very unique fulfillment. I mean, financially too, you're on the master side, let's not lie. But even spiritually, it's like, wow, like you said, you give a superstar a hit. I mean, that's great. Who wouldn't want that? I'll take that now. I would have taken that then. But to somehow do that, and I honestly feel like we were just very blessed and very lucky, because everyone else was like, how are you guys like breaking artists, multiple artists? And I know now in retrospect, that's not easy. Maybe we had a little bit of beginner's luck. I don't know what it was. Right place, right time, things kind of coinciding. But it's not easy to do that. But I have to say, I didn't do it alone. And I can't even say I masterminded it. It was kind of like Tommy, my brother, who doesn't get the credit that he deserves just because he's behind the scenes. He found us these artists who had the right combination of talent, but they were open enough to listen to us. So you find some talented people who are hard-headed, they won't listen. maybe they'll go all the way if they're that dope, but maybe they won't because they won't, So he found us the right sweet spot of talent, but also openness. And we had chemistry in the studio, and with Zach on the executive side, we were a magic trio. So I definitely cannot take credit for it myself. Yes, I was the one making the music. But we just had the right team, and it was the right timing.
Well, then in 2010, your next big artist, Jason Derulo. What You Say goes number one. This is your third number one?
Probably, yeah, my third Billboard Hot 100. I mean, there was probably other rap number ones and
no,
things
I'm
like
talking
that.
about full-blown
I believe
number
so.
one.
I believe so.
Right. And this is, once again, a new artist signed to you.
Yes. Yeah. That was, again, one of those things that was, and I forget how, what the timeline was where things were released, but Iyaz and Jason were essentially overlapping right around each other. And a lot of those songs that we broke them with, including What You Say and Replay, were done for Sean Kingston's second album. But, Jason had this incredible work ethic. He had this thing. He was also, came from Miami, Haitian roots. But he liked, I think at the time, Lady Gaga, he liked European dance influences. But obviously we were doing kind of a hybrid of urban rhythmic styles. And, my brother, again, Tommy, was the one who showed me that Imogen Heap What You Say sample. And, it just sounded really weird with the vocoder. And so I built the track around it and all that kind of stuff. And I just knew it would be the right song for him to break him. Even to the, I think I was the one who said, hey, on Jason Derulo, there's a 2 dots above the U. And I was like, yeah, let's do that to kind of just, in the same way that I kind of gave Sean Kingston his name, hey, let's just say Kingston, because let's just be unapologetically yeah, he's Jamaican. With Jason Derulo, it was a little bit more of a subtle thing where the 2 dots is is it German? Is it this? Is it that? There's some European influences here. He didn't want to do just straight R&B. He had that kind of voice at the time, but he wanted to make music that was a little bit more pop, again, up-tempo, his other hits that we did, In My Head. They were not the typical R&B of the time.
Well, yeah, that debut album sold 14 million singles, went platinum.
Wow.
Was that your most successful artist at that point?
Well, I would say now, fast forwarding to this date, seeing how many albums they've sold and how much money they've generated for the major label in us, I would say that Jason Derulo, we had other artists like Man, Buzzin' 50 Cent and a couple other things that we did. But Jason Derulo, due to his amazing work ethic and kind of having the right guidance, he went on to kind of fulfill all his commitments to Warner Brothers, of which we were participants of. So I would definitely say he went the furthest. But at the time, maybe you're right. I don't really look at numbers in that way. I don't know if that sold more than Sean Kingston. You'd probably know. If it did, maybe. But certainly he went on to kind of not get in trouble and put out album after album after album. And he probably generated, an insane amount of money for us and Warner, of which we were 50-50 partners. Even after the era, I produced his entire first album and maybe some stuff on the second. I don't remember. But obviously he went on and worked with other people. And, the good part of when somebody's signed to you as a label is we were still, Beluga Heights was still, the label until he literally completed that whole deal. And only, recently around, or maybe a couple of years ago after the pandemic, is when he re-signed a deal. But up until that point, we were the label along with Warner.